June 23, 2007. Caleb Medley, a 32-year-old farmer from Texas, stands in the middle of a pen and feels 1.5 tons of living mass bearing down on him at 40 kilometers per hour. A Brahman bull, an animal with a hump on its withers and eyes clouded with rage, gores him in the stomach with its horn. Caleb falls face first into the mud. The bull does not stop. It steps on the man's rib cage with its front hoof, and the ribs snap like dry twigs. Then it turns around and strikes again and again. When the neighbors reach the pen, Caleb is still breathing. But 7 broken ribs, a ruptured spleen, and a punctured lung leave him no chance. He dies in the helicopter on the way to the hospital. And this is only 3 points on our scale of horror. The maximum is 15. The last case in this story is so monstrous that I myself regretted starting to research the material. I warn you, what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. If you are ready, let us begin. People are accustomed to considering themselves the top of the food chain. We build cities, launch rockets, create artificial intelligence, but the moment you step beyond the concrete walls, nature quickly reminds you who the real predator is here. Animals kill people every day. According to the World Health Organization, approximately 138,000 people die from snake bites alone each year. Crocodiles claim roughly 1,000 lives per year. Hippopotamuses, about 500, and these are statistics, cold numbers. Behind each number stands a specific person, a specific agony, a specific moment when the victim realizes there is no way out. Today we will examine 15 such cases, each one more terrifying than the last. First case, 1 point on the scale of horror, March 12, 2019, New Zealand. Peter Adderley, a 57-year-old beekeeper with 30 years of experience, walks out to his hives on a farm not far from Christchurch. He has been working with bees his entire conscious life. He knows every sound, every movement of the swarm. That day he did not put on his protective suit. He simply decided to quickly check one frame. It would have taken a minute, but the swarm that day was aggressive. Perhaps the cause was a change in atmospheric pressure. Perhaps one of the neighbors had used a chemical on the field nearby. One way or another, when Peter opened the lid of the hive, thousands of bees descended upon him. According to medical estimates, he received more than 500 stings in the first 3 minutes. 500. Each sting is an injection of approximately 50 micrograms of melatonin venom. This peptide destroys cell membranes. With 500 stings, approximately 25 milligrams of pure venom enters the body. For a person without an allergy, the lethal dose is roughly 2.5 grams, meaning approximately 500 to 1,000 stings are needed. Peter was right on the borderline. His body began reacting instantly. Swelling of the larynx blocked his airways within minutes. Blood pressure dropped to critical levels. Anaphylactic shock. That is what killed him. Not the venom as such, but his own body's reaction to that venom. The immune system that was supposed to protect him became his killer. His wife found Peter lying by the hives. His face had swollen so much that she did not recognize him right away. The ambulance took 22 minutes. He was dead within 8. The terrible detail of this story is that Peter knew about his allergy. He carried an auto-injector with adrenaline in his jacket pocket. But the jacket that day remained on the hook in the house. 1 point. A quick death, almost without suffering in a conscious state. Shock shuts down the brain fairly quickly. But we are only beginning. Second case, 2 points. August 6, 2015, Zimbabwe. This is a story the whole world knows, although most remember it from the wrong side. Everyone remembers the lion named Cecil, a beautiful black-maned lion, the symbol of Hwanga National Park. He was shot by American dentist Walter Palmer, and the internet exploded with rage. But few remember what happened a year later. Hwanga National Park, November 24, 2016. Quinn Swales, a 40-year-old guide, leads a group of tourists through the park on foot. Walking safaris are a separate kind of extreme sport. No metal between you and the animal, only the guide's experience and his rifle. Quinn was experienced. He had led groups for more than 10 years. He knew the behavior of lions better than most zoologists. But that day he made one mistake. The group stumbled upon a pride of 4 lionesses and 1 male. Quinn gave the command to stop. Everyone froze. The lions seemed to pay no attention, but one of them, a young male weighing approximately 220 kilograms, had flanked them. Quinn did not see him. When the lion charged, the distance between them was about 12 meters. A lion covers that distance in 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds is less than a person needs to raise a rifle and aim. Quinn managed to turn around. He did not manage to fire. The lion knocked him off his feet with a swipe of its paw. The force of a lion's paw strike is approximately 2,700 newtons. It is as if a sledgehammer hit you in the head. Quinn fell. The lion clamped down on his neck. A lion's canines reach 7 centimeters in length. They puncture cervical vertebrae in seconds. The tourist screamed. Other guides fired into the air. The lion released the body only after 4 minutes. Quinn was dead almost instantly, a fracture of the cervical spine. But those 4 minutes, while the lion mauled the already dead body in front of 8 tourists, including 2 children, that is what remained in their memory forever. 2 points. Death was quick, but the spectacle, for a lifetime. Third case, 3 points. We already mentioned Caleb Medley at the very beginning. A Brahmin bull, 1.5 tons of fury, but I want to tell you a different story that scores the same 3 points, though for a different reason. October 14, 2002, India, the state of Uttar Pradesh, the village of Rampur, Kerala. Maya Devi, a 48-year-old peasant woman, goes to fetch water from the well. The time is 5 o'clock in the morning. It is still dark, a path she had walked 1,000 times. But that day, a leopard was lying on the path. Not just any leopard, but a man-eater. This particular animal had by that point already killed an estimated 7 residents of surrounding villages over 3 months. Man-eating leopards are a separate category of horror. Unlike tigers, which usually attack from ambush and kill quickly, leopards often attack the face. They aim for the throat and face. Maya did not see it in the darkness. The leopard leaped onto her back and sank its fangs into the back of her head. She screamed. Neighbors ran out of their houses. They found her on the path, alive but with her scalp torn off and deep wounds on her neck. The leopard fled upon hearing the screams. Maya was taken to the nearest hospital. She remained conscious for another 11 hours. 11 hours with an exposed skull and torn wounds on her neck. She told the doctors that she had felt the animal's teeth scraping against the bone of her skull. She died from blood loss and infection. 3 points, because the death was not instantaneous. She knew she was dying, and she remembered every second of the attack. However, this is not the limit, far from the limit. Because until now, we have been talking about predators that kill for food or defense. But there are animals that kill slowly, not because they want to, but because that is how their biology works. Fourth case, 4 points, January 9th, 2010. Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. The Red Sea, a place where millions of tourists come every year to snorkel and admire the corals. Oleg Kolpakov, a 44-year-old engineer from Moscow, came here with his wife for the New Year holidays. He was snorkeling in shallow water, 120 meters from shore. The depth was about 2 meters. The water temperature was 23 degrees Celsius. Perfect conditions. An oceanic white-tip shark appeared out of nowhere. This species is one of the most dangerous to humans, although attacks in coastal waters are extremely rare. The length of that shark, according to witness estimates, was approximately 2 meters 30 centimeters. It struck Oleg from below, clamping onto his left leg just above the knee. The teeth of an oceanic white-tip shark are triangular with serrated edges. They do not simply puncture, they saw. During a bite, the shark shakes its head from side to side, and the teeth work like a hacksaw. Oleg lost his leg below the knee in the first 3 seconds. He screamed. The water around him turned red, but the shark did not leave. It returned and bit again, this time into his right forearm. Oleg tried to swim to shore with one arm. The distance was 120 meters. For a healthy person, that is 3 minutes of calm swimming. For a person without a leg and with a torn arm bleeding profusely, it is an eternity. Rescuers on a boat reached him in 6 minutes. He was still alive. They pulled him from the water. On shore, they applied tourniquets. A helicopter delivered him to the hospital in 40 minutes. Oleg died on the operating table from massive blood loss. He had lost approximately 3.5 liters of blood out of the 5 that exist in an adult male's body. 4 points, 6 minutes in the water with a shark that returns again and again. 6 minutes when you see your own blood spreading through the salt water and understand that every drop attracts the predator even more. Fifth case, 5 points. And yet you do not need to travel to Egypt or India to encounter a fatally dangerous animal. Sometimes it lives right in your home. August 21st, 2013, New Brunswick, Canada. Two boys, Connor Barth, 6 years old, and Noah Barth, 4 years old, came for a sleepover at a friend's house. His father, Jean-Claude Savoie, ran a pet store on the first floor, and the family lived on the second. In the store, among other things, was an African rock python, approximately 4.5 meters long and weighing roughly 45 kilograms. During the night, the snake escaped from its terrarium. It crawled through a ventilation shaft and entered the room where the boys were sleeping. The python coiled around both children. A rock python constricts with a force of approximately 6 kilograms per square centimeter. That is enough to stop blood circulation within minutes. The children did not wake up, or they woke up but could not scream. Compressed lungs do not allow one to make a sound. In the morning, Jean-Claude found both boys dead. The snake was still in the room. The autopsy showed death from asphyxia caused by compression of the chest cavity. 5 points. Not for the duration of the agony, it was relatively short, but for the image itself. Two children, 4 and 6 years old, in the dark, in someone else's house, and a 4-meter snake slowly tightening its coils around their small bodies. It is hard for me even to say this out loud. Sixth case, 6 points. October 2nd, 2003. The Pacific Ocean, Komodo Island, Indonesia. A group of 8 fishermen from the island of Flores moored their boat at the shore to collect fresh water. They knew that Komodo dragons lived on the island. Every local fisherman knows this, but they also knew that the dragons usually avoid people. Usually. One of the fishermen, Muhammad Anwar, 31 years old, wandered away from the group. He went into the bushes to relieve himself. A Komodo dragon attacked him from there. An adult Komodo dragon reaches 3 meters in length and weighs up to 90 kilograms. Its jaws are not as powerful as a crocodile's, but its saliva contains a cocktail of more than 50 strains of bacteria, as well as anticoagulant venom that prevents blood from clotting. The dragon bit Muhammad in the right thigh. The wound itself was not fatal, but the venom began working instantly. Blood gushed and would not stop. Muhammad screamed. His companions ran over and drove the dragon away with sticks. They loaded the wounded man into the boat and headed for the nearest medical station on the island of Flores. The distance was approximately 30 nautical miles. In their boat with its low-powered motor, this took nearly 2 hours. Muhammad bled for the entire 2 hours. He was conscious for most of the journey. He watched as his pant leg became soaked with blood, as the puddle at the bottom of the boat grew larger and larger. He asked for water. His companions pressed rags against the wound, but blood seeped through every bandage. The dragon's venom would not let it clot. Muhammad died 20 minutes before the boat reached shore. 6 points. 2 hours of slow fading in a boat in the middle of the ocean with full awareness of what was happening. Seventh case, 7 points. December 13th, 2011, South Africa, a private reserve not far from Johannesburg. Mark Scott Crossley, the owner of the reserve, committed an act that makes the blood run cold. But the victim in this story was not him. The victim was Nelson Chisimba, a 40-year-old worker from Mozambique. Nelson worked on Scott Crossley's farm. According to the prosecution, a conflict arose between them. Scott Crossley accused Nelson of theft. And then, and this is confirmed by court records, he fed Nelson alive to his lions. Witnesses testified that Nelson was bound and thrown into an enclosure with 3 white lions. The lions were not hungry. They did not pounce immediately. For the first 15 to 20 minutes, they simply sniffed the victim. Nelson screamed. He tried to crawl away, but his hands were tied behind his back. Then one of the lionesses began playing with him, the way a cat plays with a mouse. She struck him with her paw, flipped him over, pinned him to the ground. With her claws, the lioness tore his back open down to the ribs. Nelson was still alive. He was still screaming. The full picture of what happened next is known only from circumstantial evidence, from the condition of the remains. When police arrived at the scene several days later, all that was left of Nelson was a skull and several large bones. Scott Crossley was sentenced to life imprisonment, 7 points. This was not an attack by a wild animal. This was an execution. A person bound and thrown to predators. The awareness of the inevitable. Minutes that stretch like hours while 3 lions decide what to do with you. And the knowledge that no one is coming to help. 8th case, 8 points. But you do not need to be the victim of a crime to end up in the jaws of a beast. Sometimes it is enough simply to live near a river. March 5, 2019. Indonesia, the province of Southeast Sulawesi. Watiba, a 54-year-old woman, left her house to check on her garden. The garden was at the edge of the village, 30 meters from the mangrove thickets. She did not return. Her husband began searching for her 3 hours later. He found her shoes. Then, tracks on the ground, wide as if someone had been dragging a heavy sack. The tracks led into the thickets. The village men assembled a group and followed the trail. 400 meters later, they found a reticulated python approximately 7 meters long. The snake was unnaturally bloated. They killed the python with machetes and cut it open. Inside was the body of Watiba, whole. A reticulated python is capable of opening its jaws 180 degrees. Its lower jaw consists of two halves connected by an elastic ligament. This allows it to swallow prey, exceeding the diameter of its own body by 4 to 5 times. But here is what is important. A python does not kill instantly. First, it coils around the victim and squeezes. Each time the victim exhales, the snake tightens its coils slightly more. Inhaling again becomes impossible. This takes from 3 to 12 minutes. 3 to 12 minutes when you feel the coils growing ever tighter, when air leaves your lungs and does not return, when your ribs crack, when your heart beats slower and slower because it simply has nowhere to expand. And then the swallowing begins. A python usually swallows its prey head first. The process takes from 20 minutes to an hour and a half. Was Watiba still alive when the snake began swallowing her? Medical experts believe most likely not, but no one can give a 100% guarantee. 8 points for the very mechanics of death, for the fact that a 7-meter snake weighing approximately 80 kilograms slowly, methodically squeezes the life out of you and then consumes you whole as if you had never existed. And yet there exists a death even more terrible. We have passed only slightly more than halfway on the scale. Ninth case, 9 points. June 7th, 1991. The state of Montana, USA, Glacier National Park. John Petrani, a 40-year-old tourist from Wisconsin, decided to hike the trail to Elizabeth Lake alone. Park rangers had warned that a female grizzly with 2 cubs had been spotted in the area. A female grizzly with offspring is perhaps the most dangerous large animal on the territory of North America. She does not attack for food. She attacks to eliminate a threat, and she does not stop until the threat ceases to move. John carried a canister of pepper spray, standard bear protection. But when he encountered the bear on the trail, the distance between them was about 6 meters. A grizzly can reach speeds of up to 56 kilometers per hour. 6 meters is less than a second. John did not even manage to pull the canister from the side pocket of his backpack. The bear, weighing approximately 270 kilograms, knocked him off his feet with a single blow. Grizzly claws reach 10 centimeters in length. A single swipe of the paw tears muscle tissue down to the bone. The bear struck him on the head, on the back, on the arms with which he tried to shield himself. Then she clamped down on his right shoulder and began shaking, the same way a dog shakes a rag. The shoulder joint dislocated from its socket. Muscles and tendons tore apart. But the bear did not kill him right away. She stepped back several meters, looked at her cubs, and returned. She flipped John onto his stomach and began gnawing at his back. Grizzly teeth are not as sharp as a lion's. They crush and tear rather than cut. It is more painful, far more painful. John was found 2 days later. Based on the condition of the body, forensic experts determined that he had been alive for a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes after the attack began. 30 minutes, alone on a mountain trail with a bear that is methodically tearing apart your back. No one hears your screams, no one to help. 9 points, 10th case. 10 points, October 9th, 2003, Alaska. And now we approach a story that many of you may already know. Timothy Treadwell, 46 years old, a self-proclaimed bear protector. For 13 consecutive years, he spent his summers among wild grizzlies in Katmai National Park. Without weapons, without electric fencing. He talked to the bears, gave them names, filmed them on camera. He believed he had established a special bond with them. He was wrong. In October of 2003, Timothy and his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard, 37 years old, stayed in the park longer than usual. October is the time when bears prepare for hibernation. They are hungry. They are aggressive. The familiar bears that Timothy knew by name had already moved deeper into the territory. In their place came others, old, hungry males that were not accustomed to people. On the evening of October 9th, one such bear, later identified as a large male weighing approximately 450 kilograms, attacked the camp. Timothy's video camera was on, but the lens cap was closed. The audio recording survived. It lasts 6 minutes. I cannot play it here. It has never been published. And according to the few who have heard it, it should never be published. But here is what is known from the coroner's testimony and those who heard the recording. Timothy was attacked first. He can be heard screaming to Amy to run. She did not run. She grabbed a frying pan and began hitting the bear. It did not help. The bear killed Timothy over the course of several minutes. Amy screamed the entire time. Then Timothy's screams fell silent. Then Amy began to scream. When rescuers arrived the following day, they found the partially eaten remains of both. The bear was still nearby. It was shot. Human remains were found in its stomach. 10 points. For 6 minutes of audio recording that no one should hear. For the screams of a woman who could have run but stayed. For 13 years of illusion, destroyed in 6 minutes. We have crossed the equator of the scale. Ahead are cases that make you doubt whether nature is even remotely fair. 11th case. 11 points. March 4th, 2006, South Africa, Cape Town. Marius Els, a 40-year-old farmer, kept a hippopotamus named Humphrey on his farm. He had taken him in as a calf, a small, wet, helpless little bundle weighing about 40 kilograms. Marius bottle-fed him. He rode on his back. He posed with him for magazines. He called Humphrey his son. Humphrey grew up. An adult hippopotamus weighs between 1.5 and 2 tons. Its jaws open to 150 degrees. Its canine teeth reach 50 centimeters in length. The bite force of a hippopotamus is about 8,100 newtons. That is stronger than a lion, a tiger, and a grizzly bear combined. On November 12, 2011, 5 years after this story began, Marius's body was found in the river on his farm, or rather, what was left of it. Humphrey had mauled him to death. From the marks on the body and on the riverbank, forensic experts reconstructed the scene. Marius had probably approached Humphrey, as he had done thousands of times before. The hippopotamus grabbed him by the torso and dragged him into the water. Hippopotamuses kill exactly this way. They drag the victim underwater and hold them until they drown. Then they bite, again and again. They do not eat the victim. Hippopotamuses are herbivores. They just bite. Marius's body had more than 40 bite marks. His rib cage was crushed. Both arms were broken in several places. He drowned. But before that, he was bitten by an animal he considered his friend. 11 points. For the betrayal. For the years of love and care that ended in murky water beneath the jaws of a 2-ton beast incapable of distinguishing its owner from a threat. A hippopotamus is not a dog. A hippopotamus is a killing machine that sometimes lets you think you are friends. 12th case. 12 points. February 24th, 2010. Orlando, Florida, SeaWorld theme park. Dawn Brancheau, 40 years old, senior killer whale trainer. She had worked with killer whales for 16 years. Her charge was named Tilikum, a male killer whale 6 meters 70 centimeters long and weighing 5,400 kilograms. 5,400. That is the weight of 2 cars. Tilikum had already killed before. In 1991, he drowned trainer Kelty Byrne at the Canadian Marine Park Sealand. In 1999, a homeless man named Daniel Dukes, who had snuck into the pool at night. 2 corpses, and he was not put down. Because Tilikum was worth millions of dollars and was the primary breeding male in SeaWorld's breeding program. Dawn knew about this, all the trainers knew, but management assured them that following safety protocols eliminated the risk. The protocols did not help. After the daytime show, Dawn lay down on the shallow ledge next to the pool to pet Tilikum. Her long ponytail hung into the water. Tilikum grabbed her by the hair and dragged her underwater. What happened next was witnessed by dozens of spectators, including children. Tilikum hurled Dawn's body from side to side. He held her underwater, then brought her to the surface, then dragged her back down to the depths. This went on for 45 minutes. 45 minutes. Other trainers tried to distract him with food. It did not help. They tried to lower a net into the pool. Tilikum evaded the net. The autopsy showed that Dawn died from drowning and multiple traumatic injuries. Her spine was broken, her left arm was torn off, and her scalp was removed. Her jaw was dislocated. 12 points. For 45 minutes in a pool with a 5-ton animal that plays with you like a rag doll. For the fact that dozens of people watched and could do nothing. For a system that knew this whale was a killer and still sent people in to work with him. 13th case. 13 points. December 1st, 2013. India, the state of West Bengal. The Delhi Zoo. No, not the zoo. This happened at the National Zoological Park of Delhi. A 20-year-old student named Maqsood Singh climbed over the barrier of the white tiger enclosure. Why? Witnesses said he wanted to take a closer photograph. Others claimed he simply fell after leaning too far over the barrier. Surveillance cameras recorded the following. Maqsood ended up in a moat approximately 5 meters deep that separated the public from the enclosure. The tiger, a white Bengal tiger weighing approximately 230 kilograms, noticed him immediately. It descended into the moat. Maqsood stood with his back pressed against the wall. He was crying. He folded his hands in a prayer gesture. He was begging the tiger not to touch him. The tiger watched him for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Witnesses above were screaming, throwing stones, trying to distract the animal. The tiger paid no attention. It simply sat and watched the man. And then, without warning, it grabbed Maqsood by the neck and dragged him deeper into the enclosure. Maqsood was still alive. He was moving his arms. The rescue operation took 2 hours. 2 hours while they tried to bring in a tranquilizer gun, while they searched for a veterinarian, while they argued over whether to shoot or not. When the body was finally retrieved, Maqsood was dead. 13 points. For 15 minutes of eye contact with a tiger in a moat from which there was no escape. For a prayer directed at an animal that does not understand words. For the 2 hours the system spent on bureaucracy while a man was dying. 14th case. 14 points. We are almost at the summit. This case requires a scientific digression, because the animal we are about to discuss does not kill with teeth, claws, or strength. It kills with chemistry, and it does so more slowly than any predator on the planet. September 15, 2006. Australia, Northern Queensland. A beach near Cairns. A 10-year-old girl, her name is withheld at the family's request, we will simply call her Emma, waded into the water up to her waist. The water temperature was 28 degrees Celsius, clear, calm water. She felt a touch on her leg. Light, almost imperceptible, as if someone had drawn a wet thread across her skin. It was an Araucangi box jellyfish. The size of its bell is about 2.5 centimeters. Its tentacles are up to 1 meter long but thin as a hair. Nearly invisible in the water. The Araucangi sting is virtually painless. Emma did not even immediately realize she had been stung. She got out of the water and continued playing on the shore. 20 minutes later, the symptoms began. First, severe pain in the lower back. Then nausea. Then a sensation that doctors call a sense of impending doom. This is not a metaphor, it is a clinical term. The Irukandji venom affects the nervous system in such a way that the victim experiences an overwhelming conviction that they are about to die. Adult men stung by this jellyfish have begged doctors to kill them to end the suffering. Emma was 10 years old. She was taken to the hospital 40 minutes after the sting. By that point, her blood pressure had spiked to 230 over 120. Her heart was beating at a rate of 180 beats per minute. She was screaming in pain. Irukandji venom causes a massive release of catecholamines, adrenaline and noradrenaline. The heart works at its limit. Blood vessels constrict to a critical level. The lungs begin to fill with fluid. Pulmonary edema. The brain swells. Emma spent 4 days in intensive care. 4 days of continuous pain that even opioid analgesics could not relieve. Morphine reduced the pain by about 20%, no more. She survived, but many do not survive. From 2002 to 2020, at least 3 confirmed deaths from Irukandji were recorded in Australia, along with dozens of cases where the cause of death was probably this species of jellyfish. 14 points. For pain that nothing can relieve. For 4 days of agony caused by a creature the size of a fingernail. For the sense of impending doom that is not fear but a direct effect of the venom on the brain. You are not simply afraid of death. Your brain is telling you that you are already dying. Every second for 4 days straight. And now we have reached the summit. 15 points, the maximum of the scale. I thought long and hard about which case to place here. There is no single specific name here. There is a method, and this method was used for centuries. 15th case, 15 points. Scalphism, a word that most of you have never heard. And after I tell you about it, you will wish you never had. This method of execution was described by the ancient Greek historian Plutarch. According to his accounts, it was practiced in the Persian Empire. The first documented use was the execution of a Persian soldier named Mithridates in 401 BC. Mithridates had accidentally killed Cyrus the Younger at the Battle of Cunaxa. King Artaxerxes II wanted Mithridates to die, but not simply not die. He wanted Mithridates to die as slowly as possible. Here is how it worked. The victim was stripped and placed between two dugout boats fitted together, like a sarcophagus. The arms, legs, and head protruded. The victim was force-fed milk and honey until severe diarrhea set in. Then the same honey was smeared on the face, hands, feet, and genitals. The boats were set afloat on stagnant water, a pitayand or a swamp, and left in the sun. The honey attracted insects, flies, wasps, ants, beetles. They landed on the exposed parts of the body. They laid eggs in the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, in every fold of skin. The diarrhea inside the boat created an ideal environment for larvae to breed. Fly larvae began to devour the victim's flesh while they were still alive. Every day, the executioners came and fed the victim milk and honey again, so that they would not die of dehydration and starvation too quickly. Every day, they applied fresh honey to the face and limbs. Plutarch writes that Mithridates took 17 days to die. 17 days. Let us break down what happens to the body. In the first 2 to 3 days, sunburn on the exposed areas of skin. The skin cracks. Bacteria penetrate the cracks. Infection begins. Simultaneously, fly larvae, maggots, hatch from eggs approximately 12 to 24 hours after being laid. They begin to feed. Maggots secrete digestive enzymes that dissolve tissue. The victim feels their body literally dissolving from the inside. By the 5th or 6th day, the infection progresses to gangrene. Tissues turn black and begin to die. The smell attracts even more insects. Inside the boat is a mixture of feces, honey, larvae, and decomposing flesh. The victim lies in this. They cannot move. They cannot brush the insects from their face. They can only watch as flies crawl across their eyes and feel the larvae squirming beneath their skin. By the 10th to 12th day, sepsis sets in. Bacteria enter the bloodstream. Body temperature rises to 40 or 41 degrees. Delirium begins. But the victim is still alive because they continue to be fed and given water. Organs fail one by one. First the kidneys. Urine turns dark, then stops altogether. Then the liver. The skin turns yellow. Then the lungs. Breathing becomes raspy, gurgling. Death comes from sepsis, dehydration, or organ failure. But it comes slowly, conningly slowly. 17 days, 408 hours, 24,480 minutes. Each one filled with pain, horror, despair, and thousands of insects devouring you alive. 15 points. The maximum of the scale. Because this is not simply death by animals. This is the use of animals, insects, as the instrument of the slowest, most agonizing execution ever devised by humankind. The most terrifying thing about scalphism is not the pain. The most terrifying thing is the time. 17 days during which you know what is happening, during which you watch your body cease to be your own, during which thousands of tiny creatures turn you into food, and you can do nothing about it. Only lie there and wait. We have gone through all 15 points, from a bee sting to 17 days in a boat with insects. Nature is not cruel. It has no intentions. But what it is capable of doing to the human body exceeds the limits of any imagination. A question for you. Which of these cases seem the most terrifying to you? Not necessarily the last one. Perhaps the story of Marius and his hippopotamus affected you more deeply, or the 6 minutes of Timothy Treadwell's audio recording. Write in the comments. And if you had the nerve to listen all the way to this point, it means you are one of those who does not look away from the truth, no matter how horrifying it may be. Subscribe. Ahead are stories that will test your nerves even more.